Welcome to Bedtime Stories. The Magical Pond. Once upon a time a poor old man lived with his wife, in a village. The couple always were grateful for their many gifts. He was grateful for the sun that shone down upon him as he chopped firewood in the forest. His wife was grateful for the beautiful fabrics she used to make clothing from the wood for the villagers. They loved each other, and also loved their little cottage. If they had any regret, it was only that they had long wished to have a child, but that wish had never come true. Still, they did not dwell upon their sadness. One day their wealthy neighbor came to fetch the clothes he had ordered from his wife. "They are good," he said, "but I want more," for the neighbor was a greedy man. He always wanted more than what he had. He wanted more children, more clothes, more money, and he never seemed satisfied with the gifts he had. When he was gone, the old man shook his head. "It is too bad that such a man cannot appreciate his life," he said. "To make his order he will have to get more woods from the forest," and with this he said goodbye and set off for work. Selecting a tree to fell, he raised his axe, but suddenly he heard the most beautiful song come floating down from above. When he looked up, he spied a bright blue bird with feathers that gleamed in the wintry sunshine. "What a magnificent creature you are," he said to the bird, "and what a lovely voice." The bird began to sing still more melodically, and then fluttered its wings and flew from its branch, hovering out of reach. The old man could not take his eyes off the creature, so when it flew away, he followed it deep into the forest. After a while, he realized he had no idea where he was. But mesmerized by the bird's song, he could not help to follow it, and so on he went. At long last they reached a flowing stream with water bluer than any water he had ever seen. The water flowed over the rocks in the stream bed, and as it flowed, it seemed to sing. The old man, as if enchanted, walked to the edge of the pond, bent down, cupped his hands and drank. "Oh my heavens," he said, for the water tasted better than anything he had ever tasted. Now some people, tasting something so marvelous, would never stop drinking, but not the old man. He felt so grateful for the simple taste of a few gulps of water that he sat back to enjoy the way it had quenched his thirst. Then he closed his eyes and lay down for a moment, and before he knew what was happening, he was fast asleep. When he awoke, the sky was filled with the deep golds and pinks of a glorious sunset. He rubbed his eyes. "I must have slept for hours," he said, and sprang to his feet, never noticing that he no longer felt the aches and pains he had felt for so many years in his tired limbs. He began to run, and felt so full of energy that he ran faster than he ever had. Though he had been lost, now he seemed to know the way back home. When he walked into the house, his wife gasped. "What's happened to you?" she exclaimed. When the old man looked in a mirror, he saw that he had turned into his youthful self again. No wonder he felt so full of vigor and strength. "I have found the magical pond," he said. "I'll take you there." The next morning at dawn, they walked together deep into the forest. Without any difficulty, he was able to find his way to the pond. He asked his wife to kneel beside the pond and took a few sips of the water. Then she sighed. "How delicious," she murmured, and closing her eyes, fell asleep. A few hours later, she awoke, and sure enough, she too had become young again. They ran home, together by each other's side, so grateful for their limber stride that they said prayers of thanks all the way home. Now when their rich, greedy neighbor saw them, he was amazed. "How did you become so young again?" he asked, and now the young man and his wife told him about how they had found the magical pond. The neighbor begged to know how to find it. The couple, always generous, happily gave their neighbor the directions to reach the pond. Without even a thank you, the rich man raced into the forest. When he had not returned by the next morning, the young man and his wife grew worried. "What if he has slipped and fallen?" his wife asked. "We must go see if he needs help," the young man agreed. So they put aside their work and walked together to the pond. As they neared the pond, they heard what they thought was the crying of a baby. "What can that be?" they asked, and they hurried along the path. When they reached the pond, they saw a tiny baby boy, wrapped in the clothes their rich neighbor had been wearing when he departed to find the magical pond. Suddenly they understood. The rich man had taken not just a few gulps. He was so greedy that he had drunk and drunk from the pond, and so he had grown younger and younger. Now he was only a newborn baby. Naturally, the kind young couple took the baby home, and that evening they said a special prayers to thank for the child which they would now raise as their son. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Good night.